Hey, Joe.
You see me now? I don't see anybody. Oh, there we go.
Hey, all. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I don't have video right now, but you have it. I hope I can fix it soon.
No problem. With different login into Zoom this time. Normally we receive an individual invite, but this was like off the agenda, so I don't know if it was a different structure or Zoom's changed at all. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good. Weather is holding up so far.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
I wonder if anyone's at the fair. The fair has been quite crowded. That's good for the fire department. A little worried that it's a week before school and it's it seems,
Yep. I thought the same thing when I went there.
seems like, you know, everyone, you know, most of the high school kids from every community around the peninsula are here. So
I'm just glad my kids are high school kids, so I don't have to go.
come on, you know, like, you know,
We went one night, but I like when you had to go every single night, I'm fine with not having to do that anymore.
Yeah,
I've
we
had enough.
we were away last week, and so we missed a number of the days that of the start of the fair, and then
Yeah,
with the rain and whatnot, we've only been able to go one night. But I'm sure I've got my plans already set for tomorrow night. So
yeah. I've already like put enough money on the money wheel, so we're good.
yeah. We got Mr. McCabe joining, Andrea joining. We'll give it 2 minutes. Everybody got their agenda and all that stuff for our meeting
Yep.
minutes? All right.
Greetings all.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
Hey, the fair is canceled tonight, so that's a good news.
Was it officially?
Yeah, they
Okay.
put it out there that it was canceled, which they should have been. I mean, it's not too pretty.
We went to about 8 minutes of baseball practice tonight before the rain started coming down, and I was laughing in my head. I'm like, this is just travel baseball. Let's play in the rain. All right. Well, I don't believe anybody else is going to be joining us. So why don't we get started? Are we recording?
That's
Yes,
good.
we are.
We are.
I will call to order. This is a regular meeting of the Shade Tree Commission of the Borough of Fairhaven. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, public meetings may be held in person or by means of communication equipment to include streaming services and other online meeting platforms. Due to the COVID-19 situation, this meeting is being presented through the Zoom meeting platform. Public participation for this September 1st, 2021 Shade Tree Commission meeting is available by call-in, phone number, or through web conference Zoom. Members of the public will be on mute until the portion for public questions, comments, which will be announced. At that time, the public has the opportunity to question, comment by phone or through Zoom by the raise hand button. It will be called on at the appropriate time. Notice of this meeting has been included in a schedule of meetings sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, the Hub, and the Star Ledger on January 28th, 2021, posted on the Borough website, the bulletin board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. With adequate notice having been given, this Shade Tree Commission Secretary is directed to include the statement in the minutes of this meeting. Everybody okay with doing Zoom meetings for the rest of the year? I feel as if we get better attendance this way. We had two meetings in the last 3 months that we didn't have a quorum, so I'm cognizant of people's ability to attend or interest in attending in person. So, so just in the effort to remain flexible or be as flexible as possible for the commissioners, we'll remain on Zoom. And I've just got a notice for next year's calendar. I was actually thinking of, instead of every month, I was thinking most months, 10 out of 12, but maybe taking the summer, like maybe the August one off. Is there another month you think we would want to take off? I was thinking maybe July and August. You can't really do a whole heck of a lot from a tree perspective, but Jill, you like that? Okay. Everybody agrees. All right. So next year, and I'll let Borough Hall know, and Christie, unless I'm just doing this in this forum, kind of informs Borough Hall. We'll do once a month, same normal day time via Zoom, except we'll take July and August off next year.
Do you think December might be a good month to hold off? I know a lot of people, it's like between the holidays. I don't know. That's just me.
I mean,
January maybe, right? If you're gone.
yeah, I mean, fair. I'd put it to kind of a survey. If we're gonna do 10 months out of the year instead of 12, what 2 should we take off? I would say August would be the one that I feel strongly about, but I don't have a strong feeling about any other months.
I think the summer months are ideal, July and August, but everybody's in and out. But
When is the January one? Just because of the holiday, the New Year's.
Yeah, that's fair, Chris. I mean, people could be, on a ski trip for the New Year's Day week. I agree. But usually it's the first Wednesday of the month, correct?
Yeah, I don't know when.
That would be January 5th.
And we're back in school by that point, but I
Are we
mean,
back in
assuming.
school?
Yes.
All right,
Assuming,
well,
yeah,
then let's do July and August. Like if schools are back in session, Chris, I don't think people will be traveling, to miss that meeting. Everybody kind of agree? You want to vote on that? All in favor of July and August as opposed to January and August next year? Say aye.
I,
Anybody opposed?
Doesn't matter.
And are you keeping the first Wednesday of the month at 7:30?
That's fine. Yeah, I don't have any issues with that as long as everybody else is okay with it.
And you'll decide if it should be Zoom or in person, or just start with Zoom and.
I'm going to say Zoom at this point until things change. I think you keep it Zoom because, like I said, primarily it gives us the ability to have more attendees. And not to jump ahead, but we will be having 2 more commission members joining. Dave Becker did resign. I don't remember if that was covered in one of the last meetings because of the timing of all these and when we didn't have a quorum, but with Audrey moving out of town and Dave Becker planning to be on the road 6 months out of the year in retirement, he felt it was the time to move on, or at least give somebody else a chance. So thank both of them for their service, and I appreciate their efforts for the town. But there is one, and I don't know how to introduce these folks because I don't know if they've been through the whole vetting process with the mayor and taking, swearing in the oath yet. So I'll hold off on using the names, but there are 2 candidates that are kind of at the final stages of approval. So hopefully next meeting we'll be able to introduce them. That will give us, they'll fill the 2 open alternate seats. Andrea and Leah have been moved from those alternate seats to permanent members of the Shade Tree Commission. Congratulations. Obviously, you both proved yourself very quickly here with a lot of your efforts on the green team and with the social media efforts and all that you have done. So thank you for that. All right, so I guess that kind of, I didn't mean to skip over the roll call or the pledge. Why don't we start with the roll call? Mr. Secretary, would you like to do that?
My pleasure. Begani,
Here.
Larson here, McCabe,
Here,
Paola,
Here.
Reed,
Here.
D'Angelo, not here, Sullivan,
Here.
and Becker is gone. I don't know if Councilwoman Neff is here.
here,
She's here.
I do believe that constitutes a quorum.
Does indeed.
All right. So we go on to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, moving along here. Like I said, 2 new commission members are coming next meeting. I'll have more information at that time. Approval of the prior minutes. Did everybody have a chance to review? I saw that Christy did send them. I printed them out. They all look fine to me. Motion to approve. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, duly approved. Jump right into project updates. Let's see here. Salem White Oak seedling. The update that I have is it is still on my porch. We are still determining the final place and the temporary place for this to be housed. I have been working with Bill Brooks on this. I did attend the rec committee meeting on August 3rd. That meeting, I introduced the concept of the Salem White Oak giveaway. They were excited to have a tree. Their concerns were that, the place that we had potentially suggested in Fairhaven Fields might also be earmarked for another project. There's a multi-purpose wall being put into Fairhaven Fields. It was a fundraising project here in town, and the funds are going to build like a, kind of a wall where you could throw a lacrosse ball against, or you could hit a tennis ball against, with some landscaping. And so that might be in the same area that we were thinking that the tree might go. So, but no pun intended, but the seed was planted with the rec committee as far as thinking about where it might go. One suggestion came in that if you've I'm assuming most of you have been to the bird sanctuary, which is back on Harvard Street. There is basically almost like a full, like a half-acre lot size, like entryway without any trees that you walk through in order to get to the entryway to the bird sanctuary. One suggestion was that, that area could use a shade tree, and certainly would be a great place to park something and let it grow for quite a while. Bill Brooks was not as in favor. He says that there's there was maybe too much shade initially for the tree to thrive, but I don't know. I think he's considering that as well as a possibility, but it depends on what happens with the canopy around it. Anyway, so it's kind of like it's in motion with the rec committee, and the kind of the halfway step it needs to take into the natural area. A gentleman named Dave Bordelon, who is on the rec committee, is thinking about this as well. So we've got a few people putting their heads together on the next steps for the Salem white oak seedling. Any questions or concerns on that?
Just one question. Did Bill Brooks indicate how long it can stay in that pot and when ideally it needs to be moved into a semi-permanent or more permanent?
Yeah, so I think the idea is like 5 to 10 years, depending on how quickly the thing grows, right? And so you can plant it in, these like 5x5, wooden planters that will allow for the root structure to kind of grow to a certain size over the course of 5 years. That can also then just be picked up with a forklift and moved and then sunk into the ground, and you take the wood, framing off of it. So you kind of have like this root ball that is allowed to grow for 5 years and then, untouched when it's put into the ground. I defer to the actual people, the DPW, and to Bill as to the best way to do this, but I think that gives us some flexibility as far as moving it. I would like to see it, sooner rather than later, 5 years as opposed to 10 years, put into its permanent spot. But I don't actually know, maybe you guys do, a 5-year-old tree, how tall would that be? Is that still just kind of a sapling as opposed to something that's 10 feet overhead?
White oak? I don't know.
I don't have a lot of background. I'm not an expert on trees, but when we were doing the Girl Scout project, we initially thought about putting the trees in one location and then moving it to a more permanent location a couple of years later, and we were highly discouraged from doing that. It was explained to me that there's a high proportion of those trees that die and don't make it to the transfer. So that kind of pushed the Girl Scout project to find a permanent location, and we ended up planting the trees on a permanent basis at the fields.
Yep. No, that's fair. Like, I think that I trust Bill Brooks's guidance on how to do this without, damaging and impacting the tree. I don't want the thing to die in transition from its temporary spot to its permanent spot. I personally would love to see it go into its permanent spot right now, but I don't know. It's so small that it has to be protected for clearly a period of a couple years, because it needs to grow to the size where the guy driving the lawnmower is not going to mistake it for like a weed or a twig that's just staying out of the ground and when its leaves fall off. So I'm a little worried about that, but I'm sure there's good ways to do this. So I know that Bill is talking to the DPW. We're engaged with the rec committee. The natural area folks are also kind of advised as to what our intentions are. So I think it kind of lies with me to follow up with these folks as far as what the next steps might be. So
Did they consider that park at the end of, is that de Normandy? By the
yeah,
river?
where we won the award for the that has not come up as a place. I kind of, I asked Bill to think about what a white oak would need, and he says that it does need a little bit of open space. because of, the fact that this tree, when it's 100, when and if it becomes 100 feet tall, it would also have a 100-foot canopy. So it's as wide as it is tall. So I don't know if that Denormity Park or even the bird sanctuary idea would work. So we're still kind of like tossing around a couple ideas.
And it not considering the fields, because I know that they would have a place for that.
No, that's our first choice is Fairhaven Fields. But the area that we wanted, which is kind of directly to the east of the playground, there are already a couple trees there, but there's then a wide open area that's a little bit lower, graded a little lower, kind of on the level of the tennis courts. But you can be 100 feet away from both the tennis courts and the playground and have plenty of space to put this, except it would be very much out in the open as a very small seedling right now in that space. And that area is also potentially going to be already used for this mixed use wall. I would like to see it in an open space like that in Fairhaven Fields. But that's kind of the rec committee's decision. So I've kind of, where we are with them is that we have a tree to give them. And they need to determine where it's going to go. So yeah, Fairhaven Fields would be choice number one because of the open expanse that we have. But I think that just putting it in right now would be premature because it's too small. Any further questions, comments?
No, it sounds like a good problem to have. That's great.
Yeah, it's, just I look at it every day, give it a little water, talk to it.
Can we get an update about how tall is it right now, Dave?
Should we have like this is an idea for the
I
website.
said last time we should have
Turn
like
on
a
the wall.
live cam. We need a live cam on it at all times. So people can check in and log in and check its status.
I think we have like a soil thermometer, like like a moisture meter and things like that. Yeah, we could do this. We could be very technologically advanced on this, I think.
Should have its own Instagram account, I think.
Ooh. Who's our social media lead?
Tapping out. Someone else is gonna have to be in charge of the Salem White Oaks Instagram page.
All right. Well, on that note, on that discouraging note, I'll move on to the next subject. Quonset cherry trees on Fairhaven Road. No news there. It's still just a matter of kind of advising the council what we think needs to be done, and that letter is on my plate. Anything on the green initiative, Andrea?
Let me see, I have my notes here. So we actually met in person for the first time, which was quite nice. So it was a good opportunity to just catch up and meet everyone face to face. We talked quite a bit around talking about social media, brainstorming ways to kind of get the green team, the name out there, get people in town to know kind of what we're trying to do, educate, etc. And then Leah, on the topic of social media and Instagram, we were kind of talking about content and how we put content out there and trying to raise ideas around like how to get this a little bit more momentum. And we talked about maybe assigning one person from the team. And I would say the same thing from like the shade tree side for us is, do we want to like pick a month where one of us becomes the owner of content, providing content for Instagram? Because I know, Leah, for you, it's overwhelming, right? To keep coming up with stuff. So we were just tossing around again, maybe one person a month or each month, kind of have an accountability for each of us to say, come up with 3 or 4 different things that you may want to share via Instagram. And then even maybe having a theme per month. So one month we could talk about, I don't know, tree growth. I don't know, whatever it is, but just how do we kind of start moving this along and getting our name out there as a team in town? That was one item, but again, whatever we discussed was kind of applicable to this group as well. We were talking about also partnering with some of the other teams in town, like the PTA, to figure out how maybe we can get into the schools a little bit more, working with kind of whether it be Knollwood or Sickles, maybe even potentially trying to get a table at Harvest Fest. So again, it's kind of talking about educating and getting our name out in different ways. What else did we talk about? A lot of conversation was around the changes going on at the DPW, the police station, and Bicentennial Hall. So Kelly, who's the lead for the team, has been extremely involved in kind of making sure she's aware and we're aware of what the town is doing with the updates that are being done, and how as a green team we can kind of help contribute ideas, proposals, etc. And that's solar, that's just energy efficiency in general. But one thing which I think we should think about is also greenery around those areas. So Dave, I don't know if you're involved with Bill Brooks. I know you mentioned the DPW before, but I don't know if you're involved at going around and looking at the plans and seeing, okay, what greenery are we putting around there and how can we help contribute to that maybe?
In my other role as a member of the planning board, I do speak up quite often about trees and the greenery surrounding a lot of these new projects. So we're fortunate in the fact that the planning board does have a few people who, ask and inquire and kind of make sure that we have thought about the environmental side of this as well, and including shade trees. So I can tell you that, yeah, the new DPW site, that was definitely part of the conversation. Every time we talk about the police station, it is included. That also then dovetails into a lot of the property line kind of concerns that maybe the residents have around there. But yeah, my involvement in that board kind of keeps the trees in the conversation. But I'm not involved in, okay, is there a budget for trees? What is the actual selection, and then the implementation of that into actually putting, a shovel into the ground and putting a tree in there, or purchasing trees for that effect. But so conceptually, I do try to keep it in the conversation, but so the green team can be assured that there is somebody advocating for that. But then it kind of goes back to the council to approve budgets, and within those budgets includes some sort of landscaping. Maybe Councilwoman Neff, do I have that correct? Like within a project like that, there is a budget line item for landscaping that trees are included in, correct?
I'm assuming that's the case. I mean, the plans I've seen include landscaping showing in it, but I don't think what the actual landscaping will be is finalized. So we really should push for it. That's something I'm very much in favor of. And we really should try to make sure that we have adequate coverage, green coverage there, and make it as nice as possible. So
Right.
I would fully support, really making sure we push that at the council level.
Right. So I guess like in the way that I advocate at the planning board level, I believe it would then be, you advocating at the council level for in the same way. So sounds like we're all aligned on this.
And then just one other thing, and I wouldn't say a concern, but one thing that came up that we should think about is just as a committee kind of making sure the community is aware of what we do as a shade tree. So what is our purpose? What are we here for? What are we responsible for? What are we not responsible for? I think if we can maybe put something together, again, just to make people aware, because those questions have come up in multiple conversations. And I was talking offline kind of at the green team with certain members, but it's come up in other conversations around, again, what do you actually do, and what can you not do from a roles and responsibilities perspective? So something else for us to think about as a team, how we want to make that clear to the town of what we're here for.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say as we kind of get to the concept of having it a website, I think the mission statement, which is at the bottom of the agenda, could be more prominently featured, so that people do have an idea of what the Shade Tree Commission's responsibilities are. I kind of agree with that, because when I joined, I asked similar questions. It didn't seem like we were putting a lot of trees in the ground, and yet all the development around town included taking trees out. So it was just more of a lot of the negative and not enough of the positive. So I do think that maybe you're right. There's like a bit of a branding need here, but look, we're trying. We have a tree giveaway contest. We have a statewide seedling thing. We've got the big tree hunt. We are trying to make shade trees more of a focus here in town, and I feel like we're on the right path with momentum, but maybe people need to hear that
and that's where I think it's the social media stuff we're talking about. I think as we get that momentum going, where we can put articles or statements out there to stress the importance of trees as new construction is going on, make sure people start thinking, or I know people do, but just reinforce about how important it is to maintain, you know, the canopy in town. And again, I think it's our social media aspect and our presence there that will help kind of drive all of this. So if we could focus on that, that would be one of my suggestions.
We
Fair.
could definitely make a social media like video about what we do. Like it could just be words, doesn't have to be people, just like some music and a little explanation.
And that's where we should share responsibility. And I think social media is another point in the agenda, but just again, it shouldn't be all on you, and how we each can play a role in kind of getting content out there to kind of keep this growing, and then educating about our team.
Good point.
I think that was it, though. Those were the main things we talked about.
Any questions about the green teams initiatives? Great, thank you, Andrea. Leah, any updates on the social media side? I saw some stuff today. Looks really good.
Thanks. I made some graphics for us to use. I posted something today that was posted on Facebook, but not Instagram. But yes, and I'm trying to create a later account for us where I can make graphics and we could have whatever videos or info, and then I can put it into later.com, which is a posting program or website where it'll post it to our social media and Facebook, and I can just schedule it in advance. So it would just be easier to sort of map out how we're going to drip out our social media content.
Well, I think it's a great start. I'm, you know, already you can see that you have followers, and I think it helps when people, you know, like it and then promote it and then maybe share it. So I would urge any of you who are on social media and who see that to try to, you know, get it out there. The more we get it out there, the more it kind of is followed by the townsfolks, and so, you know, then we'll have a little bit more of a platform to speak to the town if they can't attend to these meetings. Any questions, comments, concerns, social media?
No, if anyone has any, if anyone has any content, like Andrea was saying, I would appreciate it. And you know, we'll get more out there.
Yeah, and I think you know, with 2 new members joining, I think we can ask, you know, for their help with that. You know, I think that's a good way to, you know, scour the internet for something that can, you know, promote the local shade tree commission, or just some graphic that might be relevant in some way, shape, or form. I don't think that's too much of a task for a new joiner. So anyway, we'll talk about the next time. Tree risk management program, Jill, and this has, you know, we talked, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but we talked initially about this tree risk management thing in a very broad stroke, and then it kind of evolved into, well, is there a grant that we can, you know, seek for this, and then that turned into well, grants are given away for, you know, to towns that have tree inventories, and so
Right.
so what it evolved to is actually a tree inventory project.
Right. So yeah, so just to yeah, that's exactly how it happened. So just to recap, when we talked about this and going after this grant, which was from the New Jersey Urban and Community Forestry Program, we needed to be, the first thing was we needed to be accredited, and we were, but then it went on. But just to, so we're all on the same page of how you are accredited, you have to have a current approved community forestry management plan, which ours expired in 2019, but we said that it probably could be reapproved to go forward. I think there's some things, just glancing through that we probably could tweak. But I mean, technically we pass on that one. The other,
we are approved through 2024.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So the other thing is we need to have 2 core trained reps, 1 employee and 1 volunteer. We need to meet our CEU requirements, and we need to submit an annual accomplishment report in February. So we were so far behind for this year to get this grant. But if we want to think about this for next year, those are things that we need to have done before we consider the grant. With that said, as we looked into this grant, there's actually 2 categories of grants. And the initial thought was that we could go for the tree planting grant. And that was when we discovered that we actually had to have a tree inventory in order to apply for that grant. And the thought around that was that maybe that could help with the cherry trees on Fairhaven Road, because you could get up to $150,000 in that grant. However, realizing that we couldn't do that one, there is another grant there that's available that's up to $50,000 that actually could help with getting a tree inventory, a risk tree assessment, more of these type of things that might be more relevant to us next year. So it's quite a process. And I think I mentioned before that I've never wrote a grant before. So if we wanted to think about going after some of these resources in order to start a tree inventory, it's probably something that we might need a little bit of a bigger committee for in order to accomplish that, because that's not something I would feel comfortable taking on by myself, because I don't know what I'm doing. But Bill and I had talked about this a little bit, and he said that there is somebody in Red Bank that might be willing to lend us a hand and lead us down this path. He also had asked me to look at the Red Bank tree inventory site, which I did. And then there's also a few other towns, Shrewsbury being one of them, that this grant committee actually helped them with their tree inventory. So I think between seeing what was done in Red Bank and maybe what, by applying for this grant, what they could help with, we might be able to get there. I mean, this is a multi-year project, getting a tree inventory, but that's kind of, I guess, the decision that needs to be made on how we want to move forward with going down this road.
There's been a little bit more movement on that. So Bill Brooks did find out that the software is actually free. So he has obtained the software. He has passed it along, and there was if you all know Chris Rodriguez on the council, his daughter is pursuing, I want to say, National Honor Society, which requires volunteer hours. So within all this, it was determined that we could organize volunteers with our free software to actually start our tree inventory. And so this was going to be one of the things covered in one of the past meetings where we didn't have a quorum. There was the meeting in the park where Bill actually did a training for this volunteer, and then in turn she is going to pass along the knowledge that she has to some other volunteers in order to kind of let's just start with the easiest thing, buttonwood. We know they're all buttonwoods. So right. You only have to measure the trees, you only have to inventory the trees in public spaces. So the idea was maybe start with parks, but then the Buttonwood Street, it's pretty easy. You can you already know the species, and you can just determine the size of the tree as a starting point. I would encourage everybody to look at the Red Bank town website and the tree inventory that Jill mentioned. It's very cool. It's basically like a Google map with a pin drop for every public tree in town. You can click on the pin and it tells you the type of tree, the size of the tree, the last maintenance of the tree, any sort of details that may be about the origin or the expected life cycle. There's a lot of information on there, and our hopes are to recreate what Red Bank has done with their online tree inventory here in Fairhaven. And without a grant writer and any grant money and a very limited budget that we have, we were able to tap into some volunteer hours to just get this project started. And I realize this is probably something that will iterate over time, and maybe we start with one street, and then we do McCarter Park, and then we do the historic district, and so it might take time to get it up and running. But I think the idea is that if we can crawl before we can walk, and then walk before we run, we might build a nice healthy database of the trees in town online over a bit of time. But yeah, so Jill, thank you for looking into all the grant stuff. I think a lot of us are I personally am overwhelmed by the concept of like applying for a grant. I envision us, kind of canvassing, this town of people who have maybe experience doing that, maybe for a pro bono volunteer, or somebody from a surrounding town who knows how to do this stuff. But yeah, no, I think keeping an eye on some of the grants that may or may not be available to us and understanding the components, we can kind of step our way through. So tree inventory is one step in a longer journey. So
who, can I ask a question? Who knows what the trees are? Like, so you go down Buttonwood, yeah, they're all the same, but is Bill going to accompany these volunteers to identify them?
Well, yes and no. Like, so there
Okay.
are, kind of techniques you can use to kind of identify certain trees. Some of them are going to be very obvious, but there are also technology applications. Like, I have this thing on my phone called Picture This. You take a picture of the leaf and it tells you what tree it is. So
Right.
there are ways, and it's not foolproof, but it's like, it'll probably get it, it'll get it that it's an oak versus a, like a sugar maple, so.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
so-
but they identify of like the age and stuff like that. Like, I
it's
guess
more
it
like-
seems.
It's more like size. You measure the circumference, and
Okay,
then
got
you estimate the height, and so from that, then you can surmise the age, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
that's a known pitfall, right? Like, we don't have a tree expert doing our tree inventory, but
Right.
you hope that the arborist can give them enough information to get going, right? And that's why I say, like, maybe the tree inventory is iterated on over the course of time, because
Right.
well, the first thing might just be the species that we think it is, the circumference or diameter and the height. But then there's a record of a tree being in that place, right? And so then, somebody could look at that and refine it later, and maybe there's somebody who's more of a tree expert than our current volunteer. But I think it's, start by starting, right? And so that's the idea.
Great.
Yeah. Any questions, comments on the tree risk management program / tree inventory? Great. I'll move a little quick here. Buttonwood replanting, no updates. That's really not on our plate. It's more the council level. Administrative, it was mentioned. We have to have a certain amount of continuing education unit credits. We have a few, but I would encourage, I sent an email around to many of you, to all of you. I would encourage you to look at online. I think it is the New Jersey Urban Community and Forestry group that offers the CEUs. There are online, like on demand videos that you can watch that, once completed, will then give us another credit. So I would ask each of you to kind of at least take ownership of one credit. That would help the group. I've already gotten 2, I believe, and I think we need 8 or 12. So I'll refresh on how many we need, but if everybody could do one, that would be helpful.
On that thing that I was just on said 8. I don't know if it's the.
That's it. Then it's 8.
Yeah,
It was, I couldn't
yeah.
remember the total number. So,
Okay.
we have roughly 8 committee members. So I think we're partially there. So if everybody could just take ownership of one CEU, that would be helpful. You mentioned the 5-year plan that is in place through 2024. Through COVID, we were able just to roll over the last one, even though it does need some updates and refinement. But we can kind of, unfortunately, kick the can down the road, for lack of a better term, till the next time. Website. Who was it? Andrea, you had sent around that the one pager, right?
Yes, and I had changed the background, so I know there were comments Jill had sent regarding the background, so I did make updates to that. As just appearance wise. I don't know what we want to do as the next steps. We want to publish something? Do we want to add to it, change it, wait till we have something else? So you just let me know.
Can you resend it to me with the new background?
Yep.
Then we'll talk offline on that one. But maybe it's time to just try to get a link off the website, because
it's a starting point. It's not the end all. So let's start with something. Yeah.
Yeah, and then similarly, the tree inventory will give us a starting point for another link. So okay, good call. Yeah, and maybe Christy, you can help us with that. I don't know who in Borough Hall who's the webmaster or whoever.
Betty Ann, I can help her and you.
Okay, thank you. Obviously the big tree hunt, we've announced the results of that already. Yes, if you want to nominate the question is whether it's an ongoing effort or not. Yes, you can nominate a tree for at any point for the kind of the tree inventory, statewide tree inventory, or what do they call it, a feature tree or a heritage tree, I believe. But I think that'll give us an opportunity as we get into the beginning of the next year to really create public awareness around the big tree hunt that happens in April and May. So why don't we kind of shelve that until then, or maybe our February, March meeting will give us something to kind of plan for the spring months.
Hey, just one question there. Did we want to consider doing a plaque or anything for the one that won this time around? I don't know what the view was. I know it was talked about the day of the event, that it might be something nice, but I don't know what the rules are around that.
Yeah, great call, actually. A plaque.
Yep.
I did.
The shade tree could spot, because I said even to Wendy when she raised it, I said maybe we could even sponsor it. I don't think it's very costly. I'd be happy to help fund it.
Yeah, no, I
it'd
think
be something that maybe it's to recognize it more
I
formally.
think it's a great idea. Yeah, I mean, we have many people have kind of forwarded that article along or shown me the print version in the community newspaper or community magazine. Yeah, we should be proud of that, right? So let's get a Christy in town. How do we source plaques?
I can ask DJ. He does a lot of that in the parks, and put you in touch with someone or help you out.
Yeah, would you mind following up on that? Because that would be, yeah. I know that we would have budget left over after the tree giveaway to buy a plaque. They can't be very expensive, and so I'm sure that would be a worthwhile expenditure. So, yeah, Christy, if you could find out more about that and let me know, we'll take it from there.
Sure.
Good call, Andrea. I did notice that Dr. Mike got his Treasure Our Trees license plate. I have not acted on that yet. That is one on the pile of to-dos here in my house. But yeah, I think they're quite cool if anybody else wants to do that. But I'm gonna stop short of saying it's mandatory for the Shade Tree Commission members. But maybe anybody new that joins, okay, tree giveaway update. Yeah, I think the last meeting we talked about, it was the submission on Hance was chosen as the winner by vote. I went over there with Bill. We met the homeowner. We talked about it. We decided that instead of one tree, we're going to give 2 trees, one on either side of the walkway to the house, set back a little further so it's out of the right of way. Homeowner understands that this is her maintenance obligation, not the town's. Bill suggested, after kind of looking around, he suggested the Liberty elms as the trees. They grow kind of Y-shaped, so they'll go up and not super wide, but it's still very tall. But yeah, they'll fit nicely on that block. That block does need some reforestation after some of the development in the houses that are north of there. So yeah, we did find out, I talked to Bill today, those particular trees do have some risks to being planted in the fall. So they are our spring planting. And Lynn, if you're listening, I need to get you this update. Yes, it's going to be planted in the spring as opposed to the fall, based on the risks to the trees when planting in the fall. So that's more to come there, but that's something that we do have the budget for, and 2 trees will be the end result on that property. So, any questions or comments about that? The only other updates from Bill today, I spoke with him. He suggested that we all, if we are interested in learning a little bit about what kind of like a good example for the Shade Tree Commission is to go to 81 Fairhaven Road in the historic district. There are 2 sugar maples right on the street, in the planting strip between the street and the sidewalk. There is some, they are likely going to come down because of damage. First of all, there's a scar at grade, which is most likely from a plow, which has then been infested by carpenter ants. So the tree is becoming more and more compromised from the inside out. The other one has root girdling, which is a problem from when it was planted, and you can see the sidewalks buckled dramatically. So I think with that, Bill believes that there is a safety issue and hazard condition has been created. So it's a good example for us to go take a look at before there's any action taken. So that is on 81 Fairhaven Road. But that is, that's kind of in his, that ball's in his corner right now. So
How were they identified? Is it the homeowner or he saw it and identified it?
I don't know. I don't know how it came up. I don't know if the homeowner is asking for them to be taken down. He did mention that the homeowner is involved. So, but I don't know if there was an application submitted or if there was an ask of the town to take them down because they are in the right of way. But the point is you get to see some of the ill effects of trees that aren't planted in the right spot and treated incorrectly over the years. So anyway, that was Bill's update.
Hey, can I just go back to the tree giveaway just for a sec?
Sure.
Because at one point we talked about offering the trees to the schools, one to Sickles and one to Knollwood as they finish construction. Is that something with giving away the other 2 trees that would still be in the budget for this year? I mean, I don't even know if they would be able to plant them in the fall, maybe Knollwood, but I'm guessing Sickles is going to be under construction for a couple more months.
No,
or
yeah,
do we want to
we have-
pause on that until the spring?
I'd say it's worth exploring if you want to reach out to the schools and see what they had in mind as far as the location goes. Then we could think about what size tree would go there and how much that would cost. We definitely have, but I believe our budget. I believe the Shade Tree Trust has not $4,000, but somewhere around there, right? And so
Okay.
if you figure, at most, I don't think we're going to spend $2,000 on the trees from the tree giveaway. And I don't think we're going to spend $1,000 on a plaque. So,
No,
I think within there's certainly room for 2 more trees based on their size. So, and then soon enough, we'll have our community appeal, the community appeal money that comes in through the town's donations will be coming in the next few months, I believe. So that'll add a little bit more to the budget.
Okay, I know that when I spoke with Sean McNeil, I told him I'd get back to him when school was starting this year. So I just wanted to, follow through with that. So it's not like he's asking for these right now. I just wanted to give him the update. So, all right, I'll do that and report back next time.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's worth exploring. I want us to be putting trees in the ground. So that's a great project to pursue. So
all right, great.
Let's make sure that gets added to the agenda for next meeting. Is the school the Knollwood and Sickles tree giveaway commemorating the construction.
Maybe near the new paver walkways with all the bricks.
Sorry, what's that?
They're putting in the PTA sold a bunch of personalized brick pavers.
That's right.
Fundraiser, maybe the trees would complement that area.
That would be that'd be nice. Or maybe the PTA could buy the trees.
I'm no longer in charge of the PTA.
I'll speak to Mrs. Nash about that. That's great.
Dave, one quick second. Do we have an exact time, or maybe Christy knows when the community appeal starts? Is there
It's after the new year.
I was going to say, I was only saying it feels like it's been a long time, nearly a year since the last community appeal, but that might have become because it's been a COVID year and we didn't do one last year. I don't know.
It's after the new year. I can find out and get back to you by the next meeting of when that is.
Okay.
I just know it's not the rest of this year.
Okay. Thank you. I was just thinking that maybe that might be, Leah, something that we could put on our website. Maybe we could promote the canopy issue of the town and, appeal to people to consider giving more money to the shade tree during the community appeal.
Appeal to the community about the community appeal.
Appeal to the appeal.
I actually think that's a great idea to put it on social media because, I don't think I've seen any of those 5 or 6 groups kind of advocating for themselves when it comes to the community appeal. Why not us, right? And if we have a platform like social media and say, hey, look, here's what we've done in the past year. We're looking to give more trees away and we're looking to put more in the ground. And, our canopy was 45% in 2008 or whatever the data is, and say we're trying to get it to 55% in the next 10 years. And so I think, Chris, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm
I
happy to
think
come
so
up
too.
some wording. I'm not too good on the applying it to a website, but if you need any wording or whatever, I'm happy to do that.
Wordsmithing.
Wordsmithing.
That would be great. We could work together on it for sure.
All right. Sounds good.
That's great. Great suggestion. Anybody want to put I'm going in a little bit of a jump order, but anybody want to put anything on an agenda for next meeting while we're thinking about it?
Can't think of anything.
I'm going to put that. I'm going to say, let's, the school tree donation, plaque for DeNormandy, and the community appeal on social media should be something that we don't forget to discuss next time. So if we could put those on the agenda, that'd be great. Anything else before we move to public participation? Let's see here.
Nothing.
All right, so why don't we move to public participation? If anybody has anything that they would like to add, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom. Okay.
Okay. Ms. Torsidia, you're all set?
Hey, Bonnie, how are
Can
you?
hear me?
Yeah, we
Can
can
you
hear you,
hear me?
Bonnie. Yep.
Oh, good. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being champions of the trees. Really appreciate it. I was just going to say something about the plaques. I was walking by Bicentennial Hall and I noticed there's a plaque for the Liberty Tree, which I don't know if anybody remembers is there, put in there in 1976 to commemorate. I think it would be great to put one for the Salem Oak as well if you're making plaques.
Oh yeah, that's a great call. I'd always intended to include a plaque with that. But maybe now's the time to kind of, if we're going to do a plaque, why not do 2?
Well, so if you want a great book, read The Nature of Oaks by Douglas Ptolemy. It will tell you everything you need to know about oak trees and how to grow them and how to take care of them. And I do think it's best to get it in the ground as soon as you can because it has a taproot that grows down deep, which makes it so great. And protect it from the deer because there's a gazillion deer over at Fairhaven Fields. But I do think it'd be such a great thing to have and really take. I think it's exciting that we have it and that you want to take care of it and that you're keeping it on your porch and talking to it, David. I love that. Just the other thing I wanted to say was the tree inventory, I think is so great. So I just had, following up with the big tree hunt, I had a tree on Hance, that big oak at 44 measured officially by the Forestry Service. And
I'm so glad you did that. That's awesome.
yeah, so I haven't gotten in touch with the owner yet to find out more because once I gave them I got her to sign the right of access to get it measured, they went forward together. But the representative said there's so many beautiful trees in Fairhaven. I really, really hope more people participate. It's just such a great way to actually have people go out in their yards, identify trees, learn what they are, because it's very confusing, particularly once the leaves fall off. But when you talk about the inventory, are you just talking about public, like parks, or are you talking about in everybody's yard and streets.
No, well, just the public, the trees that the shade trees responsible, the shade tree commission is responsible for the trees in kind of public spaces, whether that's a park or street lines. That's the initial, I mean, I guess ultimately we could aspire to have every beautiful tree on the tree inventory in town. I think that though we're better served by like the tree inventory being the public trees, and then the heritage tree project from the state, part of the big tree hunt, database, be the private tree database. I don't know how you feel about that, but I know the tree inventory is designed to be specifically focusing on the public trees.
Well, I mean, the only reason to have private trees recognized is that I just remember walking down Third Avenue and watching a huge tree being cut down because they were putting a house up. And I still can't quite figure out why it needed to be taken down. I'm not that familiar with it, but I just feel like if you recognize huge trees on private property, then when these things, if a house gets sold, there will be a record, and they might have to talk to you first before they knock the tree down to build a house. So
I agree. If a tree, in your example on Hance is on record with the state, and there's some project that, whether it's a development or sidewalk or what have you, that would impact that tree, then there's probably somebody else to answer to other than just take it down on a whim.
Anyway.
So I hear what you're saying, but yeah, no, I think a public push to do the big tree hunt for private trees is what I would hope that we kind of put in place by the spring. By the next big tree hunt, I want the entire town to know what the big tree hunt is. And I thought there was a really kind of a great find last year, and we were caught a little off guard because we didn't hear about it, know about it, but or not in a very timely way. But through some concerned citizens bringing it to our attention, I think that was a good result. Third place for a town that didn't really think about it for very long. So now that we have a year lead time till the next one, let's think about how we can leverage our new platform and social media to get the townspeople on board with nominating trees.
Great. Thanks. I would just love to see you guys be consulted more. I'm so sorry, the phones keep ringing in my house, but anyway,
you're broadcasting publicly. People are now in demand. It's probably NBC News asking for a comment. All right, thank you, Bonnie. Appreciate you attending.
Thanks so much.
Anybody else from the public want to raise their hand if they have a question or concern? All right, I think that concludes the shade tree meeting. Does anybody have anything else they would like to add? Make a motion to adjourn. Seconded by Mr. McCabe. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time. 1 hour on the nose.
Good night, everyone.
Good job.
Good night, everyone.
Great job.
Thanks all.
Okay.
Take care.
Thanks all.
Night.